The iron blade pressed against Faith's throat, and she could feel the cold metal drinking in her warmth like a living thing. Around her, the council chamber blazed with torchlight, casting shadows that danced like demons across the marble floor. 200 vampires filled the hall, their eyes gleaming red with anticipation, hungry for the spectacle of her execution. "The human dared to enter the forbidden archive," Lord Davian announced, his voice echoing off vaulted ceilings. "She violated our most sacred law. The penalty is death by dawn's light." Faith's hands trembled, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. She was 26 years old, had served in the castle for 3 years, and had never once stepped out of line until tonight. The accusation was a lie, but no one would believe a human servant over a vampire lord. "I didn't," Faith started, but the blade bit deeper, silencing her. "Oh, let her speak," Rizzle called. From her throne-like chair, her crimson gown spilling across the steps like pooled blood. She was Lord Davian's consort, beautiful and cruel, with midnight hair that fell to her waist. "I want to hear the little mouse squeak before she dies." The vampires laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Faith's legs shook, but she refused to kneel. Her mother had died serving these creatures, had bled out in the kitchen after a noble grew angry over undercooked meat. Her younger sister Emma worked in the laundry now, only 15, too young to understand how fragile their lives were in this castle. If Faith died tonight, Emma would be alone. "I was in the Western Library, cataloging manuscripts like I was ordered," Faith said, her voice stronger than she felt. "I've never been to the Forbidden Archive. I don't even know where it is." "Liar," Davian hissed. "The seals were broken. The Codex of Origins was touched by mortal hands. Your scent was found in that chamber." "That's impossible!" Faith's heart hammered against her ribs. Someone had framed her, but who? And why? "Perhaps she's telling the truth," Rizzle purred, rising from her seat with serpentine grace. She descended the steps, her heels clicking against stone. "Perhaps she's simply too stupid to remember her own crimes. Shall we burn the memory from her before we burn the flesh?" The crowd murmured approval. Faith's stomach lurched. She'd seen what vampire compulsion could do. Turn minds to mush, strip away everything that made a person human. "I won't confess to something I didn't do," Faith said, though terror clawed at her throat. "Brave little thing," someone commented from the gallery. "Almost ashamed to waste her." Rizzle circled Faith like a predator, her fingers trailing across Faith's shoulders. The touch made Faith's skin crawl. "You humans are all the same thieving creatures who think you can touch what belongs to us." Rizzel's nails dug into Faith's arm, drawing blood. "You're vermin in our halls, and we've been too merciful letting you live." Faith bit back a cry of pain. The guard holding the blade to her throat pressed harder, and she felt blood trickle down her neck. "The law is clear," Davian said. "At dawn, the human will be chained in the eastern courtyard. The sun will pass judgment." Faith's blood ran cold. Chained in sunlight. They would make her burn slowly, a spectacle for the entire castle. It was a death reserved for traitors and criminals, meant to terrorize others into obedience. "Please, my sister, she's only 15. She needs me. I'm all she has." "Your sister will take your place in the kitchens," Davian said. "Consider it mercy." "You're condemning an innocent person!" Faith's voice rang out, echoing in the sudden silence. She knew she was signing her death warrant, but she couldn't stop the words. I served this castle faithfully for 3 years. I've never stolen, never lied, never broken a single rule. And you'll kill me because someone else committed a crime and blamed me for it." The chamber erupted. Half the vampires shouted for her immediate execution. The other half seemed almost impressed by her defiance. "She has spirit," someone murmured. But Rozelle's face had gone white with rage. "Silence her!" she shrieked. "Take her to the dungeons. Let her rot until dawn." Guards seized Faith's arms, hauling her backward. The blade left her throat, but their grip was iron, bruising. She struggled, but it was useless. Vampire strength was absolute. "Emma!" Faith screamed as they dragged her toward the doors. "Tell Emma I'm sorry!" The doors slammed shut behind her, cutting off the chamber's lights and sounds. The guards pulled her down into darkness, down stone stairs that spiraled deep beneath the castle. The air grew colder with each step, damp and heavy with the smell of old blood. They threw her into a cell, and she hit the ground hard, her palms scraping against rough stone. The door clanged shut. Faith pushed herself up, her hands shaking, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She was going to die at dawn. The thought kept circling her mind, too enormous to fully grasp. She'd wake up to her last sunrise, would feel her skin begin to burn, would... "I didn't do anything wrong," Faith whispered to the darkness. Tears slid down her cheeks, hot and bitter. Hours passed. The cell had no windows, no light except the faint glow of torches in the corridor beyond her bars. Faith sat against the wall, arms wrapped around her knees, thinking about Emma. Her sister had their mother's eyes, soft and brown, always worried. Who would protect her now? Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Faith's head jerked up. It was too early for dawn, wasn't it? She'd lost all sense of time in this pit. A figure appeared outside her cell, tall and cloaked in shadow. For a moment, Faith thought it was the executioner come early. But then he stepped into the torchlight, and her breath caught. He was the most beautiful creature she'd ever seen. Pale as moonlight, with features carved from marble and eyes like molten silver. His hair was black as a raven's wing, falling to his shoulders. He wore dark clothes that seemed to absorb the light, and power radiated from him like heat from a forge. This was no ordinary vampire. This was something ancient, something terrifying. "Your Faith," he said. It wasn't a question. "Who are you?" Her voice came out hoarse. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied her with those silver eyes, and Faith felt like he could see straight through to her soul. The intensity of his gaze made her want to look away, but she forced herself to hold steady. "My name is Bezaleel," he said finally. "Tell me why you entered the Forbidden Archive." "I didn't!" Faith pushed to her feet, ignoring the way her legs trembled. "I keep telling everyone I was never in that archive. I don't even know where it is." "You're telling the truth," Bezaleel said, and it wasn't a question. He tilted his head slightly. "Interesting." "Then why won't anyone believe me?" "Because Lord Davian needs you to be guilty," Bezaleel said. "His consort has been stealing from the archive for months, selling our secrets to rival covens. When I began investigating, she needed a scapegoat." The words hit Faith like a physical blow. Rizzle had framed her, set her up to die for crimes she herself had committed. So I'm going to burn at dawn for nothing, Faith said bitterly. For her crimes. Not if I can prevent it. Faith's eyes widened. You'd help me? Why? Bezaleel was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft, almost contemplative. I am the oldest being in this castle, Faith. I was ancient when these walls were first raised, when your ancestors were learning to walk upright. I've seen empires rise and fall, watched stars die and be born again. He paused. And in all those countless centuries, I've learned to recognize truth when I see it. You are innocent. Thank you, Faith whispered. But then reality crashed back. But Lord Davian won't listen to you. Rizzle has him wrapped around her finger. Davian is a child playing at power, Bezaleel said, and there was something terrifying in his tone. He forgets who truly rules here. Before Faith could respond, Bezaleel reached through the bars and took her hand. His touch was cold but not unpleasant, like marble warmed by winter sun. She felt a strange tingle where their skin met, like electricity dancing across her nerves. I'm going to get you out of here, he said, but you must trust me completely. Can you do that? Faith looked into those silver eyes and saw something there that called to her, something that felt safe despite the danger radiating from him. Yes, she said. Good. Bezaleel's grip tightened slightly. What I'm about to do may frighten you, but it's the only way to save your life. What are you? He bit his wrist, quick and clean, and blood welled up, dark as wine. Before Faith could process what was happening, he pressed his bleeding wrist to her lips. No! She tried to pull away, but his other hand cupped the back of her head, holding her gently but firmly in place. Drink, Bezaleel commanded. Drink, Faith, or you'll die at dawn. The blood touched her tongue and her world exploded. It tasted like lightning and starlight, like every sunrise and sunset she'd ever seen compressed into a single moment. It burned going down her throat, but not painfully. It was transformative fire, remaking her from the inside out. She could feel it spreading through her veins, racing toward her heart, and when it reached that vital organ, something fundamental shifted in the fabric of reality. Faith gasped, pulling away from his wrist, and stumbled backward. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst. Heat flooded her body, then cold, then heat again. Every nerve ending sang with sensation. What did you do? She stared at her hands. They looked the same, but she could feel something different coursing through her. What was that? Bezaleel was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. That was my blood, he said quietly. The blood of the first vampire, the origin. Faith's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, her mind reeling. The origin vampire was a myth, a legend whispered about in servant quarters. The first of their kind, created in darkness before history began, powerful beyond measure. And Bezaleel was... That's impossible, she breathed. I am older than your species, Bezaleel said. I walked the earth when dragons still flew and magic flowed like rivers. I am the source from which all vampire bloodlines descend. Then why are you here? Why are you in this castle taking orders from... I take orders from no one, Faith. I simply exist. I watch. I intervene when necessary. He knelt beside the bars, bringing himself to her eye level. And tonight, it became necessary. Faith's heart was still racing, and she could feel his blood working through her system, changing things she didn't understand. What will this do to me? I don't know, Bezaleel admitted, and the vulnerability in those words shocked her. My blood has never merged with a human before. It should have killed you instantly. Your mortal body shouldn't be able to contain such power. He reached through the bars, his fingers hovering near her face but not quite touching. But instead, you're absorbing it. Your cells are rewriting themselves to accommodate what I've given you. I'm going to become a vampire? No. Something else. Something new. His eyes gleamed with fascination. Something that has never existed before. Before Faith could respond, pain lanced through her chest. She cried out, clutching at her heart. It felt like something was branding her from the inside, burning a mark into her very soul. It hurts! I know. I'm sorry. Bezaleel's hand shot through the bars, catching her before she could collapse. The merge is taking hold. Your blood and mine are becoming one. Just breathe. Let it happen. Faith tried to follow his instructions, tried to breathe through the pain, but it was overwhelming. Her vision blurred, and she could see strange lights dancing at the edges of her sight. Threads of power weaving through the air, connecting everything. She could see the bars of her cell glowing with the residual energy of his spells woven into them. She could see Bezaleel's aura blazing like a dark star. I can see everything. The sight, Bezaleel murmured. Already? The pain began to recede, slowly, like a tide pulling back from shore. Faith found herself leaning against Bezaleel's hand, his cool touch the only anchor in a world that had suddenly become too much, too bright, too alive. What's happening to me? You're becoming what you were always meant to be. Bezaleel's thumb brushed across her cheek, and the gesture was so tender it made her chest ache. Mine. The word sent a shiver down her spine. Not fear, something else. Something that felt like recognition. Footsteps echoed in the corridor again, multiple pairs this time. Bezaleel stood in one fluid motion, positioning himself between Faith and the approaching guards. 3 vampires appeared, led by a tall male with scars across his face. They stopped short when they saw Bezaleel. Lord Origin, the scarred vampire said, dropping immediately to one knee. The others followed suit. We didn't know you were here. Leave, Bezaleel said simply. Lord Davian sent us to prepare the prisoner for... I said leave. Power rolled off Bezaleel in waves, and the temperature in the corridor dropped 20 degrees. The human is under my protection now. The guards exchanged nervous glances. But Lord Davian's orders are irrelevant. Bezaleel's eyes flashed silver. Would you like to explain to Davian why you defied me? The scarred vampire went pale. No, my lord. Of course not. He bowed lower. We'll inform Lord Davian of your intervention. They fled, their footsteps echoing away into the darkness. Faith watched this exchange with growing understanding. Bezaleel wasn't just powerful. He was the power in this castle. Everyone else was simply playing at it. They're terrified of you. As they should be. Bezaleel turned back to her and his expression softened. But you're not afraid. Why is that? Faith considered the question. She should be terrified. She'd just drunk the blood of an ancient being, was transforming into something unknown, and was locked in a cell with a vampire who could kill her with a thought. But when she looked at Bezaleel, fear wasn't what she felt. Because you saved me, she said simply. When everyone else wanted me dead, You believed me. Something flickered across Bezaliel's face. Surprise, perhaps, or something deeper. Innocence is rare in this world, Faith. Worth protecting. He reached for the cell door, and the ancient lock simply dissolved at his touch. The door swung open, and he held out his hand to her. Come, we're leaving. Faith took his hand and let him pull her to her feet. The moment she stepped out of the cell, alarm bells began shrieking throughout the castle. Red light flooded the corridors. They know! Let them. Bezaliel kept her hand in his as he led her down the corridor, moving with fluid grace. They can't stop what's already begun. They climbed the spiral stairs, and Faith could hear shouting from above, guards mobilizing, vampires gathering. Her heart hammered, but Bezaliel seemed completely at ease. They emerged into a grand hallway lined with portraits of vampire lords long dead. At the far end, Lord Davian stood with 24 guards, all armed with spelled blades that glowed with dark magic. Rizzle was beside him, her face twisted with fury. "How dare you!" Davian roared. "That human is sentenced to death!" Was sentenced, Bezaliel corrected. I've commuted her sentence. "You have no authority here," Rizzle shrieked. "You're just a relic, origin or not. This castle belongs to Lord Davian now." Bezaliel stopped walking. He let go of Faith's hand, and she felt the loss of his touch like a physical ache. When he spoke, his voice was soft, but it carried through the hall like thunder. "This castle was built with my blood," he said. "Every stone was laid by vampires I created. Every ward, every spell, every drop of magic in these walls flows from me." He took a step forward, and the guards actually backed away. "You think you own this place, child? You're squatters in my house." Davian's face went white. We didn't mean..." "The human was framed," Bezaliel continued. "Rizzle has been stealing from the Forbidden Archive, selling our secrets to the Nightshade Coven. She needed a scapegoat when I began investigating." "That's not true!" Rizzle's voice was shrill. "She's lying! The human must have compelled..." "Compelled me?" Bezaliel laughed, and the sound was like breaking ice. "You think a human servant could compel the first vampire?" He raised his hand, and Rizzle's body jerked backward as if yanked by invisible strings. She slammed against the wall, held there by Bezaliel's will alone. "Please." "Your scent is all over the archive," Bezaliel said. "I found your correspondence with the Nightshade Coven. You sold them the Codex of Origins for 30 pieces of gold." His eyes burned. "You betrayed your own kind for pocket change." Davian looked at his consort, and Faith saw the exact moment he realized the truth. His expression crumbled. "Rizzle, tell me he's lying." "I had to. We needed..." "You let me condemn an innocent!" Davian's power flared, and the temperature spiked. "I was going to kill her for your crimes." I'm sorry, please." Bezaliel released her, and she collapsed to the floor, gasping. "Davian, decide her fate." Davian stared at the woman he'd loved, and Faith saw genuine pain in his eyes. But when he spoke, his voice was hard. "Exile," he said. "Strip her of her rank and title. She has until dawn to leave our territory. If she's found within our borders after sunrise, she burns." "Davian, please, I love you." "You loved my power," Davian said. "Not me. Get out of my sight." Guards dragged Rizzle away, her screams echoing through the halls. Davian watched her go, his jaw clenched, before turning back to Bezaliel. "The human, Faith, I apologize for the injustice done to her. He bowed his head. What restitution can I offer? None. Bezaleel gestured for Faith to come to his side, and she did, feeling the weight of dozens of eyes on her. She's mine now. The words sent another shiver through Faith. Davian's eyes widened. You claimed her? I gave her my blood. It's merged with hers. Bezaleel's hand found Faith's again, his fingers intertwining with hers. She's becoming something new. A murmur rippled through the assembled vampires. Some looked fascinated, others horrified. The Origin's blood, someone whispered. She's touched by the source itself. Faith felt everyone's attention shift to her, weighing and measuring. Her skin prickled with awareness. She could feel the threads of power connecting all these vampires to Bezaleel, could see the way his presence anchored them to existence itself. What happens now? She whispered. Now we see what you've become, Bezaleel said. He raised his voice, addressing the assembly. Faith carries my blood. She is under my absolute protection. Anyone who harms her answers to me directly. Understood, Lord Origin, Davian said immediately, and every other vampire echoed the sentiment. But as the crowd began to disperse, Faith felt something strange building in her chest, pressure like a storm about to break. Her vision swam with those strange threads of light again, but stronger now, more insistent. Bezaleel, something's wrong. He turned to her sharply, his eyes searching her face. What do you feel? Power. Too much. I can't. The pressure exploded outward. Faith didn't mean to do it, had no idea she was even capable of it, but energy burst from her body in a wave that sent every vampire in the hallway to their knees. Not just kneeling, forced down by a power they couldn't resist, their heads bowed, their bodies trembling. Even Davian, lord of the castle, was on the floor, one hand braced against the marble to keep from collapsing completely. The only one still standing was Bezaleel, and even he looked shocked. Impossible, he breathed. Faith stared at her hands, at the silver light emanating from her skin. What did I do? You commanded them, Bezaleel said. Every vampire in this castle just felt your power and recognized it as superior to their own. He laughed, the sound full of wonder. My blood didn't just merge with yours, Faith. It amplified something that was already in you. Something ancient. I'm just human. You were human, Bezaleel said. But there's other blood in your veins. I can sense it now. Old blood. Divine blood, perhaps, or something close to it. His eyes gleamed. My power recognized its equal and bonded with it. You're not becoming a vampire, Faith. You're becoming something far greater. The vampires on the floor began to stir, slowly raising their heads. But they didn't stand. Instead, they remained kneeling, their eyes fixed on Faith with a mixture of awe and terror. The Blood Queen, someone whispered. She's the prophesied Blood Queen. What? Prophecy? Faith's heart was racing again. I don't understand any of this. Come, Bezaleel said, guiding her toward a side corridor. Let's go somewhere private. I'll explain everything. He led her through winding passages to a tower room she'd never seen before. It was circular, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains. Dawn was approaching. The sky had begun to lighten from black to deep purple. Faith walked to the window, her mind spinning. An hour ago, she'd been a servant girl waiting to die. Now she was... what? A blood queen? A creature of power that made ancient vampires kneel? I don't know how to be this, she said quietly. Bezaleel came to stand beside her. In the growing light, she could see his features more clearly, the sharp line of his jaw, the elegant arch of his cheekbones. He was watching the sunrise, something most vampires feared, with perfect calm. No one ever does, he said. Power is always overwhelming at first, but you'll learn to control it. What about Emma? My sister. She's still in danger here, working in the kitchens. They could hurt her to get to me. I'll have her moved to the western wing, given a comfortable room and proper protection. He glanced at Faith. No one will touch her. You have my word. The tension in Faith's chest eased slightly. Thank you. They stood in silence as the sun crept higher, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. Faith had always loved sunrises, had treasured the few moments she could steal to watch them before her duties began. The sun doesn't hurt you? I'm the first, Bezaleel said. The sun gave birth to me as much as the darkness did. I exist in the balance between them. He turned to face her fully. And now, so do you. Faith looked at her, hands again. The silver glow had faded, but she could still feel the power thrumming beneath her skin. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Whatever you want, Bezaleel said. You could rule this castle alongside me, transform it into something better than what it's been. Or you could leave, explore the world, discover the full extent of your abilities. He paused. Or you could stay with me and let me show you wonders you've never imagined. Faith's breath caught. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something in his eyes that called to her soul. Why did you really save me? She asked. It wasn't just because I was innocent. Bezaleel was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. I've been alone for so long, he said. Thousands of years, watching the world turn, surrounded by beings I created, but never truly connecting with any of them. He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek. And then I saw you in that cell, defiant and brave despite your fear, and I felt something I haven't felt in centuries. What? Hope, Bezaleel said. Hope that maybe I wouldn't have to spend eternity alone after all. Faith's heart clenched. She thought about everything that had happened tonight, the terror, the transformation, the impossible power now flowing through her veins. But beneath it all, there was this, a connection to someone who saw her, truly saw her, and chose to save her anyway. I'm still scared, she admitted. That's wise, Bezaleel said. What you've become is unprecedented, but I'll be with you every step of the way, if you'll have me. The sun was fully risen now, golden light flooding the room. Faith had always thought vampires burned in daylight, but Bezaleel stood, bathed in sunshine, beautiful and terrible and ancient beyond measure. And he was looking at her like she was the miracle, not him. I want to stay, Faith said. I want to learn. I want to understand this power and use it for something good. She met his eyes. And I want to know you. The real you, not just the origin vampire everyone fears. Something blazed in Bezaleel's expression. Joy, relief, desire all mixed together. Then you'll have me, he said. All of me, for as long as you want. He pulled her close, and Faith went willingly, resting her head against his chest. She could hear his heart beating, slow and steady, ancient and strong. Her own heart matched its rhythm, and she felt the blood they shared resonating between them. What happens now? Now, we solidify your position, Bezaleel said, his hand stroking through her hair. The vampires knelt to you, but some will question whether it was your power or mine. We need to make it clear that you're not just my consort. You're a power in your own right. How do we do that? There's a gathering in 3 nights. All the major vampire houses will be represented, lords and ladies from across the continent. He pulled back to look at her. We'll announce you there. Let them feel your power firsthand. The thought terrified her, but Faith nodded. She'd face death tonight and come through it transformed. She could face a room full of ancient vampires. Okay, but I need to see Emma first. Make sure she's safe. Of course. Bezaleel took her hand. Come, I'll take you to her. They left the tower room and descended through the castle. It was different now, walking these halls. Vampires stopped and bowed as they passed, their eyes tracking Faith with wary respect. Word had spread quickly about what had happened in the main hallway. They found Emma in the servants' quarters, scrubbing floors with 2 other girls. She looked up when they entered, and her eyes widened. Faith! She scrambled to her feet, nearly dropping her brush. They said you were going to... I thought... Faith pulled her sister into a fierce hug. I'm okay. I'm safe. Emma clung to her, trembling. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. Shh, it's all right. Everything's changed now. Faith held her sister tight, breathing in the familiar scent of lavender soap. You're going to be moved to a real room, somewhere safe. No more scrubbing floors. What? How? Faith pulled back, keeping her hands on Emma's shoulders. Something happened to me tonight. I'm different now. More than human. She glanced at Bezaleel, who'd remained by the door. This is Lord Bezaleel. He saved me. Emma's eyes went wide. She'd heard the legends. Every servant had. The origin? Hello, Emma, Bezaleel said, his voice gentle. Your sister is under my protection now, and so are you. Emma looked between them, trying to understand. I don't understand what's happening. Neither do I completely, Faith admitted. But I'm alive, and we're together, and we're going to be okay. That's what matters. She spent another hour with Emma, explaining what she could, while Bezaleel made arrangements for her sister's new quarters. By the time they left, Emma seemed less terrified and more curious, which Faith counted as a victory. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Bezaleel became Faith's constant companion, teaching her to control the power that had merged with his blood. She learned to sense other vampires' presence, to read the threads of magic that connected everything, to command the energy that flowed through her veins. She also learned about him. He told her stories of the ancient world, of civilizations that had risen and fallen before recorded history. He showed her the forbidden archive, the real one, with its shelves of knowledge spanning millennia. He taught her that power without wisdom was dangerous, but wisdom without compassion was hollow. And somewhere in those 3 days, Faith fell in love. It wasn't the sudden, overwhelming passion of romance novels. It was quieter than that, more inevitable, like the sunrise, constant and sure. She loved the way he listened when she spoke, like her words mattered. She loved how he'd created an entire library of human philosophy because he believed mortal perspectives had value. She loved the sadness in his eyes when he spoke of being alone, and the way that sadness faded when he looked at her. The night of the gathering arrived. Faith stood in her chambers, no longer a servant's cell but a proper suite overlooking the mountains, and stared at herself in the mirror. She wore a gown of deep crimson, the color of heart's blood, with silver threads woven through the fabric. It was cut to fit her perfectly, elegant and powerful. Her dark hair had been arranged in intricate braids, and someone had painted her lips the same crimson as her dress. She looked like a queen. The door opened, and Bezaleel entered. He'd dressed formally too, in black that seemed to absorb the light, with silver accents that matched his eyes. When he saw her, he stopped. "You're breathtaking," he said. "It's the dress. It's you." He crossed the room and took her hands. "Are you ready for this?" "No, but I'll do it anyway." "That's my queen," he said, and pressed a kiss to her forehead. They descended to the grand ballroom where hundreds of vampires had gathered, the most powerful beings in the vampire world, all assembled under one roof. Faith could feel their power pressing against it. Her awareness could see the intricate web of alliances and rivalries that connected them. The crowd parted as she and Bezaleel entered. Silence fell, heavy and expectant. Bezaleel led her to a raised dais at the room's center. He didn't release her hand as he addressed the assembly. "You all know who I am," he said, his voice carrying effortlessly. "I am the first, the origin from which all vampire bloodlines flow. Tonight, I present to you the one who will stand beside me, Faith, who carries my blood merged with her own, who has been transformed into something new." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Faith could feel their skepticism, their doubt. An ancient vampire stepped forward, a woman with white hair and eyes like frozen lakes. "She's mortal," the woman said dismissively. "What right does a human have to stand beside the origin?" "She's no longer mortal," Bezaleel said. "Show them, Faith." Faith's heart hammered, but she trusted him. She closed her eyes and reached for the power inside her, that vast, terrible strength that had been sleeping since the hallway incident. She called it forth gently, carefully, and let it flow outward. The effect was immediate. Every vampire in the room staggered, then dropped to their knees as if struck by an invisible hand. The white-haired woman's face went pale with shock as she fell. Faith opened her eyes and saw them all kneeling, hundreds of ancient, powerful vampires brought low by her will alone. "She commands the blood I gave her," Bezaleel said. "And through it, she commands you. She is the Blood Queen, prophesied in our oldest texts, the one who would unite mortal and immortal, who would bridge the gap between what we were and what we can become." Faith released her power, and the vampires slowly rose, their expressions transformed. Awe had replaced doubt. Fear had given way to reverence. The white-haired vampire approached the dais and knelt again, this time voluntarily. "Forgive my presumption, Your Majesty. I didn't understand." "There's nothing to forgive," Faith said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm still learning what I've become, but I hope we can learn together." Over the next hours, vampire after vampire approached to pledge their loyalty. Some were genuine, others calculating, but Faith could sense the difference. Her merged blood gave her insights into truth and lies that she was only beginning to understand. As the gathering wound down, Bezaleel drew her aside to a private balcony overlooking the castle grounds. The night was clear, Stars scattered across the sky like diamonds. That was exhausting, Faith admitted. You did beautifully. Bezaleel wrapped his arms around her from behind, and she leaned into his embrace. They accept you now. You're truly the Blood Queen. It's still so strange. A week ago, I was washing dishes and trying to stay invisible. She turned in his arms to face him. Now I'm supposed to help rule the vampire world? You'll be extraordinary at it, Bezaleel said. You have compassion the rest of us have forgotten. You see people as they are, not just what they can give you. His hand cupped her face. You'll make us better. Faith's breath caught. What if I fail? Then we'll fail together, he said. I've been alone for so long, Faith. I won't let you face this by yourself. She searched his eyes and saw the truth there. This ancient being, powerful beyond measure, was offering her his heart. I love you, Faith whispered. I don't know when it happened, but I do. Bezaleel's expression transformed, joy breaking across his features like sunrise. Faith, his voice caught. I've existed for thousands of years, and I've never said these words to anyone. But I love you. With everything I am, everything I've been, everything I'll become. He kissed her then, soft and reverent, and Faith felt their merged blood singing between them, a connection deeper than flesh, more permanent than time. When they finally pulled apart, Bezaleel took her hand and brought it to his lips. Faith, I want to ask you something, and I need you to understand you're free to refuse. What? In vampire culture, there's a ceremony, a bloodbinding. It's the closest thing we have to marriage, but it's more permanent. It ties two souls together for eternity. He took a breath. I want to bind myself to you. Make you my consort in truth, not just in title. But it means you'd be tied to me forever, through every life, every rebirth. I won't ask that of you. Unless, yes, Faith said, her heart full to bursting. Yes, Bezaleel, I want that. You don't need time to think. I've faced death, been transformed into something impossible, and discovered I can command ancient vampires with a thought. If I can handle all that, I can handle forever with you. Bezaleel pulled her close again, and she could feel him trembling. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. The bloodbinding ceremony happened a week later, under a full moon in the castle's ancient courtyard. Every vampire in the territory attended, and many from beyond, all witness to the union of the Origin and his Blood Queen. They stood in a circle of silver light, and an elder priestess spoke the old words, vows that predated language as Faith knew it. Bezaleel cut his palm, then hers, and they pressed their hands together, letting their blood mingle. Power exploded outward from that connection, washing over everyone present. Faith felt their souls intertwining, becoming one while remaining distinct. She could feel Bezaleel's ancient presence settling into her heart, could sense his thoughts and emotions as clearly as her own, and she knew, without doubt, that this was right. I bind myself to you, Bezaleel said, his voice resonating with power. Through eternity and beyond. You are my heart, my soul, my purpose. I bind myself to you, Faith echoed. Through whatever comes, you are my partner, my love, my home. The priestess raised her hands, and silver light erupted from their joined palms, shooting up into the sky like a beacon. The bond is sealed. The Origin and the Blood Queen are one. The assembled vampires erupted in cheers, but Faith barely heard them. She was lost in Bezaliel's eyes, in the absolute certainty of their connection. "I can feel you," he whispered. "Everything you are, everything you feel." "I can feel you too! Your heart, your thoughts." She laughed, tears streaming down her face. "It's beautiful." The celebration lasted all night. Emma danced with a young vampire who'd been courting her gently for days. Lord Davian approached Faith and formally apologized again for his actions, pledging his house's absolute loyalty. Even the white-haired elder vampire, Lady Morgantha, Faith learned, gifted them an ancient grimoire of power, a gesture of respect. As dawn approached, Bezaliel led Faith back to their chambers, truly theirs now, shared and perfect. They stood at the window and watched the sun rise together. "What do we do now?" Faith asked, leaning against him. "Now, we rebuild," Bezaliel said. "Transform this castle into a place of knowledge and growth. Create a new order of vampires, ones who remember their humanity, who use their power to protect rather than dominate. A new bloodline, one that combines the best of both worlds." "Exactly." He turned to face her. "We could build something beautiful, Faith. Something that lasts." "Then let's do it. Together." And they did. Over the following years, Faith and Bezaliel transformed the vampire world. They established academies where young vampires learned control and compassion alongside combat. They forged alliances with other supernatural beings, creating councils where disputes could be settled without bloodshed. They hunted down those who preyed on the innocent, making it clear that the old ways of casual cruelty would no longer be tolerated. Faith's power grew stronger as she learned to wield it with precision. She became known not just for her strength, but for her wisdom, her ability to see through deception, to understand the heart of any problem, to find solutions that honored all parties. And 5 years after that fateful night in the dungeon, Faith gave birth to their daughter, a child who carried both their bloodlines, the first of a new kind of being. She had Faith's warm heart and Bezaliel's ancient power, and when the elder vampires held her for the first time, they wept with joy. They named her Aurora, for the dawn that had witnessed her parents' first kiss. More children followed, each one unique, each one carrying the potential to bridge the gap between mortal and immortal. The new bloodline spread, and with it, a new age for vampire kind. Faith stood in the same tower where Bezaliel had first explained her transformation, holding their youngest son while watching the sunset. Emma lived in the castle still, married now to that gentle vampire and teaching at the academy. The world was changing, slowly but surely, becoming something better. Bezaliel came up behind her, wrapping his arms around them both. "What are you thinking about?" "How far we've come," Faith said. "I was a servant girl waiting to die. Now I'm a queen, a mother, a leader." She looked at him. "Now I'm yours." "And I'm yours," Bezaliel said, "for all eternity." Their son cooed between them, and Faith smiled. She'd been transformed that night in the dungeon, remade into something new and powerful. But the greatest transformation had been in her heart, learning that she was worthy of love, of power, of a destiny greater than she'd ever imagined. "I wouldn't change a single moment," she said. neither would I. And as the sun set on another day, the origin vampire and his blood queen stood together, bound by blood and love and an eternity of possibility stretching before them. The prophecy had been fulfilled. The blood queen had risen, and the vampire world would never be the same. Did you like this story? Do you want a part 2? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, big shout out to our viewers from Fort Wayne, Indiana, USA, Canada, Michigan, London, Queensland, Birmingham, UK, Long Island, New York, Albany, Central Florida, California, Missouri. Thank you for being part of my small, humble community. To our growing viewers, comment below which state you're watching from so I can give you a shout out in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated on our next uploads. Thanks for watching!